Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
The entire time I knew him, he only ever had one goal. To wipe out half the universe. If he gets all the Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers. Just like that.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
We got one advantage. He's coming to us. We have what Thanos wants, so that's what we'll use.
Let's talk about this plan of yours. I think it's good, except it sucks. So let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
Wow.
The end is near. When I'm done, half of humanity will still exist. Perfectly balanced. As all things should be. I hope they remember you.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Ian Bruce
and
Marcus Hurley.
Yeah, so we are going to get into Avengers, but there are a couple of other films we've seen. Ian, you saw A Quiet Place.
I did see A Quiet Place, yes. And it's difficult to talk about it because you fellas haven't seen it.
Yes, we failed to.
That's all right, that's okay. I can be spoiler-free.
I couldn't find a place quiet enough to watch it.
Okay, brief background then. It's got John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, real-life husband and wife, also accomplished actors in their own right.
Jim from The Office. And
he's also in 13 Hours in Benghazi, which is well worth a look if you like quite good shooters. Ignore the Michael Bay directed bit. It's a pretty good war film, to be honest, or a action shooter thing.
He's also been connected with a Jack Ryan thing as well for Amazon.
Yeah, that's coming out.
I don't know when that.
I think it's next year actually, and it's still being teased. Season 2's already been greenlit, and season 1 hasn't been out yet. Anyway, so he's directed short things before, but he hasn't directed a feature. It was a script that two guys wrote about a thing that happens that means if you make any noise, something will come and get you. That's the most spoiler-free version I can do. Krasinski isn't a horror fan. He's not really a big fan of horror too. He hasn't watched a lot of horror. So what I think he's done, and what I think a number of people have said, is he's taken the concept of the family. So him and Emily Blunt play the father and mother. They have 3 kids, and they're trying to survive in this with this thing in this environment where they can't say anything. All these things will come and get them. So it's primarily about the family, and what really made it work for me, and I was glad the cinema was not full, because cinema hay fever was in full effect on a number of occasions.
Jesus.
Was just how beautiful the family is. They're not, I mean, the kids aren't related to them, but if you see any of the press stuff that they've done, it's like they are a family. They're just so lovely with each other, and that really came across in the film. I really enjoyed the story. It doesn't patronise you with the story. It doesn't explain things to you. The world building is just breathtaking. You definitely feel like, oh, yep, yep. And you don't need to be explained stuff. You just understand why things are happening. And I believe there's a sequel coming.
Oh, wow.
which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think everything he's in is getting greenlit for a sequel at the moment, but that's all right. I would. It would be interesting to see if you do see it at the cinema. I don't even know if it's still out at the moment. I was lucky enough to see it not on a busy night, so I think about the first 40 minutes, nobody really says anything to each other. There's tricks and things you can do to actually speak to other people, but they didn't happen until later. And as like the R, whatever it was, the rating thing came up at the start, people were rustling crisps and bags of popcorn, but within seconds everybody had gone completely quiet and you could hear a pin drop, and that was just amazing until something loud happened, and then you heard everybody doing their crisps, and then it was quiet again, and then you heard no crisps. So that was that. It was this weird, like,
Crisps.
I was being freaked out by what was in the screen, but trying not to giggle at people rummaging their crisps when there was a loud bang or some dramatic music or something that meant they could probably get away with it. Fuck knows how it's going to be on a busy Friday night with a load of twants in the cinema, but I was quite lucky that everybody worked like that. And the guy from work who I went to see it with, he bought a big bag of popcorn, and he came out and half of it was still wrapped up, ready to be eaten, because he felt he couldn't eat it, which was lovely. I think it's going to be a great film to watch with headphones up reasonably loud at home. So I look forward to getting it on the streamers. I've already pre-ordered it the Blu-ray. So if you like intelligent horror, I think, or horror done by people that don't normally do horror. So there's some tropes in there, absolutely, but it was very interesting to see somebody who hasn't really directed, who's known for being a comic actor, who's done some action stuff, but he's really not well known for this, put his absolute heart and soul into it to make it what at the moment is going to be my film of the year. Obviously, I've not seen Avengers, nor am I going to, so it's probably going to be my film of the year.
It's all right. They're very similar things, I understand. So
yeah. I would recommend it, and I would love to do some spoiler stuff with you guys when or if you get the chance to watch it. So
I it's definitely on the list, man. And we might not get to do it until the end of the year, but I'm definitely up for watching it. I'm sure it will sound amazing on my new rig.
If you watch it at home, I do think it's worth watching it with other people. Because the guy I saw it with, and I'm not going to name him, and maybe it was a guy I used to work with. He doesn't like horror, but I managed to persuade him to go and see it. And part of the fun was seeing him jump like a motherfucker. It was just, and I found that I've not really been to a cinema with somebody like that before. And at some point, his hands were over his face, and then that kind of fed me, and my hands were over my face. And it became this kind of circle of madness that I've not really had in horror films, because I usually watch them on my own. So it was good. I think it's a group viewing type thing, but you'd all have to be quiet, or they'll get you.
Yeah, that sounds like one for around mine. When we can get hold of it. Yeah.
It's actually still in cinemas at least tomorrow and Thursday, so it's still around, I think.
Okay.
Not sure how long
I just
after.
don't know if I'm going to have the time. Possibly Thursday I could do, maybe. But if you are going to go, let me know, Marcus. Cause, I'm it's definitely.
If I was there, I would go again. That's how good it was.
Oh, good.
Come down here.
It's a lot of money, mate.
Bit of a trek. Speaking of watching films together, I went round to John, previously of this parish, and went round to John's, and John and his wife Bex watched a film called Game Night, which stars Jason Bateman, Rachel McAdams, Carl Chandler, and more. It's basically, you remember that film Michael Douglas, The Game, where it's kind of like a live action game. Basically, this couple, they're she sort of wants to have kids. He's not sure. He wants to be like his cool brother that always does all this cool stuff. And so, but they meet over a joint affection of games. And there's this thing they do like regularly called Game Night, where they play charades, they play board games, they play Jenga, all that sort of stuff. But then sort of his older brother comes along, and it sort of feels like that they go round to his for game night, and it's going to be the best game night ever. But things start to kind of come off the rails a bit. And the thing is, it's kind of it's one of those sort of action comedies. It's one of my least favourite genres. This film has no right to be as good as it is, but it is very clever. There's some great scenes in there where they're trying to like run around with this Fabergé egg, and it's all done in one take, very similar to a scene in the Black Panther movie. So I was really impressed by that. But it's kind of acts as this kind of metaphor for, putting down childish things and growing up. That's kind of at the heart of it, I think. And we all had a really good time. Beck stayed awake, which was a result. It's a good film. Like I think that will, like I say, I did not expect to be as good as it was. So I'd recommend it.
Good to see Sharon Horgan in there. Is it Sharon Horgan? Sharon something? Sharon?
Yeah, from Catastrophe.
Yeah.
She turns up and it's like, oh wow, this film's just got even better now.
Yeah,
just her being
really good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So you've seen it?
Yeah.
Everyone's seen it?
Yeah.
I haven't, but
I thought
I
you
think I saw a trailer for it.
Okay.
Someone yelled out, I've seen it too. I didn't realise you...
It was a while ago I saw it when it was at the cinema.
Yeah, no, you and Suze will like it, Marcus, definitely. It's well worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, have you got anything, Marcus, before we move on to the main event?
I don't think so, no. I haven't really seen much else.
Do you want to stick around for this, Ian?
I think I'm going to listen to it.
Okay. All right, then.
Cool.
Fair enough. So me and Marcus and Anna and also Daryl, our friend at the Chronicle, who runs the Chili Dog group, we all went along to the IMAX in Waterloo to watch the new Avengers movie. And it was a couple of weekends ago now, but I'm still fairly fresh on it. There's been an awful lot of controversy around it, around the way it ended.
It's 50-50 though.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I had an absolute blast with it, but I think the people who are disappointed with it are just... I don't think they're quite as... I don't want to speak for anyone, but in my opinion, I feel like they're not quite as bought into this way that Marvel is doing things.
Yeah.
And that is that what they are delivering is a TV show over multiple films.
Episodic.
Yes,
there is no
very much
guarantees for stuff.
No, exactly. And it ends on a note that has led to so many theories. But I just think it's genius. I mean, I never read the Marvel comics when I was a kid, but from what I've heard, everyone's saying that this is an absolute perfect cinematic representation of that. Just the fact that you've got so many different people coming in. I mean, the joy of this film really is just... I mean, my initial review of it was, this is like watching some of my favourite movies of the past 10 years all at the same time. Because you've kind of got like these excellent matchups that are just so unlikely. Like, well, they're not now really. We've known this has been coming for a long time. But we didn't know the matchups there was going to be. And also this film is very light on exposition, similar to God of War that I was talking about on another show. It's a film that likes to show and not tell. But it also takes strides to kind of keep the film on track by, stuff happens off screen. You don't see Thanos get every single jewel in the Infinity Gauntlet. But there are logical leaps that you can take, and it doesn't do the film a disservice. It's already 2.5 hours long. But yeah, I loved all the stuff with Thor and the Guardians. That's just awesome. All the stuff with Tony Stark and Spider-Man, seeing them working together, it was just excellent. Even some of the new villains I thought were great. I forget the name of the exact...
The Black Order, they were called. I think.
One of his goons, with the one with no nose. I liked him.
Well, while you're doing that, I just want to say on behalf of the Marvelites, or whatever the hell they're called, or Children of Marvel, or Marvelous Group, stones, Infinity Stones, not gems.
Yeah.
Well, what are
Geek
they calling
hat
them then? What are they? I thought they're called stones in the film, aren't they?
Yeah, Infinity Stones. You said gems.
Oh, sorry.
wrong.
Same thing, but
Jesus.
They were gems in the comic, weren't they?
No, Stones.
I don't know.
Stones.
Always Stones.
Sorry. They look a bit like gems.
But I agree
was Rob
with
taking another
God.
sip of alcohol. So
yeah, and it coming back out his nose.
yeah.
But
Go on
I
then,
agree
Marcus,
with.
though. I could just keep going, but you should probably say
No,
something.
I
at some
agree
point.
with you completely. I don't think it was probably quite as an exact replication, because that would be something like Watchmen, which was an exact.
Like I said,
sort
I
of
didn't
thing.
read those comics, but I'm just going on what people have said.
For the material that they have and the world that they've built, it is the perfect way they could have done this in accordance to the world that they've built. Anything more would have been, I think, as much as I would have loved to have seen it, would have been too far. Considering how far they take, I mean, these films have been fantastic and stuff. When they released Guardians of the Galaxy, and you're seeing like a world built inside the skull of an ancient being, I can't remember what it was called. The place they go to where Drax gets almost killed by one of the minions of Thanos or stuff like that, and then you know it's inside the head of an ancient organism. So stuff like that, they've been trying to build this up and up and up through different layers, more than just there are people on Earth that have amazing powers that are crazy and it's insane, to the point where you have a space raccoon, you know, a cyborg daughter of Thanos, a green girl, which you hear more about in this film. And I just think the way that they executed it was short of flawless. The only flaw I would say in it is that you could tell it was a Disney Marvel movie, because the bad guy needed to be more than just a galactic arsehole. Which he is. No, they humanized. They make him sympathetic. Yeah, they humanized him more than he actually is, which I thought made him great villain for that film.
But it's great if you think of this film as Thanos' film.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Thanos, without saying too much, but Ian doesn't care, you know, he has an arc that ends in success.
Yeah, we oh yeah, we should say that this is good. Should we go into spoilers? Are we going? No, let's not. Let's not.
Yeah, I mean, I've
think
already
it's a bit
kind
soon.
of done it.
I know what happens at the end. I've read what happens at the end. So,
to be honest, anyone who wikis Infinity War
or goes to YouTube
on
or the
Wikipedia
internet
will know what happens at the end.
No one's coming anywhere near this episode unless they've seen it.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
You'll put a caveat on the description anyway, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fine.
On your head be it.
So, spoilers for Infinity War starting now.
So, I think that the way that they handled it was great. Thanos is basically the Class A galactic arsehole of Marvel. He is a thug. He is a brutal SOB.
He's the best villain.
He is basically the Stone Cold Steve Austin of Marvel. He doesn't give a shit. He just turns up. He's brutal enough without the Infinity Gauntlet. So the idea of him getting all of five Infinity Stones. No, 6. All 6 Infinity Stones forged into the Gauntlet and then taking on the universe was insane when they first proposed it in the comic. And all those years ago, when we found out this is what was going to happen, apparently it wasn't meant to go that way. And the addition of Thanos in the Avengers movie was a last minute addition.
What? No, that's bullshit.
No. Well, Joss
Shots
said he wasn't originally going to go with Thanos. Not a last minute.
Sorry,
not
what?
A lot.
So who wasn't?
No,
It's always been Thanos. That's been happening for years.
No, take it
They've
back.
been building him up for ages.
Take it back.
Do we have to go back that far?
Rob,
Why are we going back that far?
The first Avengers movie is the first time you see Thanos.
Yeah.
I was saying, Joss Whedon, when they were first talking about the idea of doing an Avengers movie, they weren't going to go Thanos route. They were going to just do a threat to the Earth, and the Avengers come together and defeat it. But was it specifically
implied in that film?
That but
it was him?
Rob, you're thinking about the film post-creation. I'm talking pre-creation.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
I know, but I'm just saying. Oh God, Jesus! Will you let me just fuck's sake, Rob.
All right,
stop.
no, okay. If you want to talk
I'm
about
saying
in the beginning, there was
this whole arc could never have happened.
Can we insert a card that just fades to black with a single line that comes up and says, "Some hours later, Marcus."
Yeah.
You could just move it forward.
Yeah,
continue.
No, I was just saying that we were quite lucky in the fact that we have a 10-year arc of all of this happening. Because if they chose not to do that, we wouldn't have any of this. And that was the point I was going to make. The fact that they chose to put this villain and then build all of this up is incredible. And the fact that they've managed to pull it off and also include films like Ant-Man, which you kind of initially think, what the hell? Which then fed into Civil War, which introduced Black Panther, which then led into the Black Panther film and led into all of the other ones in Guardians of the Galaxy and all of these ones and Doctor Strange, where you look at these characters, you think there is no way in hell they're going to have a common ground, but somehow they managed to feed them in. You know, Doctor Strange turning up in Thor Ragnarok, so they started to interweave the stories rather than just the stingers at the end, which I thought was great because that led up to then the Endgame. Well, penultimate Endgame.
It is mad how each of these franchises had such a different... It might be subtle, but they all have a different sort of style, a different agenda, but like they all seem to slot in together so nicely. Like,
did you notice that this film had a completely different pace? This film almost felt a bit serious. It had jokes, it had quips, but it completely put the brakes on the mat because people were. I had my reservations. I think in the last podcast I said I hope they don't treat it like Thor Ragnarok and do it as a big disposable party. This definitely was not any of that. This actually made me sit in my... I was grinning like a bastard after 10 minutes because I knew how dark they were going with this. And I knew that they weren't pulling their punches, and I really didn't know where it was going to go. They could have just made decisions, you know, it could have been 10 minutes later and it could have just happened. I didn't know where the story was going. I knew that events would have to happen. I didn't know if they were going to happen in this one. I hoped. And when it did, I was happy. I was really, really satisfied with the conclusion of this film.
Just to go back on your, we'll get to that definitely. But just to go back to Thanos, though, I just love the fact that in the first sort of 10 minutes of the film, he basically punches Hulk out and kills Loki. So it's like from that point on, it's like all bets are off. Like
Rob's
the
just
stakes
looked at
are
the camera
immediately
and
the stakes are immediately set. At that point. So you know that there's going to be fatalities in this film, and that Hulk is no longer the most powerful thing in the universe.
Also, maybe we'll get Night Manager 2. That would be good.
Now that he's looking for work,
no, he's unemployed.
Although
he's got plenty of work in flashbacks, I reckon.
Yeah, well, maybe Bond as
Who
well.
knows what will happen?
Yeah. But that's I agree. That set the bar, and from there we were just like, well, shit. What do we do? What do we do? What's going to happen? What are they going to do? You know.
That's right.
Push the retcon button.
In the this is it. Right. So in the end, basically, I'm just looking at time here, and we could go on about this longer, but just had a lot to get through tonight. So we both established we both liked it, this ending, there's a lot of people got lots of theories. I've got one. So basically, essentially, at the end, he collects the 3 gems, clicks his fingers, half the world dies, or half the galaxy, half the universe dies. They fade out. Now, I think for sure they didn't know who was fading out, and I think that's in the interests of spoilers. They didn't want leaking. Also, all the people that fade out are people that definitely have more movies coming out. And all the people that don't fade out are the ones that have been rumoured to be at the end of their contracts and, have done all their films and have been vocal about how done they are with it. So my theory is that all the people that faded away are actually survived, and the people but it was just shown from their perspective. So basically, like, it looked like, all the people that faded away, they're actually fine. or they will, or there'll be something that has to happen which involves reversing what happened to beat Thanos. Or
if only there was
That's
like a stone that did stuff with temporal things, maybe that would.
Yeah, there is a time stone.
Spoilers,
yes,
Jesus, right? Okay.
I think the gauntlet is frazzled at this point, so yeah, I don't think I don't know how they're going to manage that. So, but yeah, that's my theory. It's just, I mean, this is the thing, is that because I knew too much about like the business side of it, it kind of spoiled the impact of that, because it's, like, I mean, I was fine with like some of the Guardians disappearing and stuff, but as soon as like Spider-Man starts going, I'm like, there's no way he's gone. He's like signed up for loads of movies, and you know, it's like yeah.
So that's There's a number of links on the internet that suggest there are certainly precedent and fictional, not law-based things that would return things back to normal. As Rob said earlier, and as much as I'm skull-fuckingly bored of the Marvel films, they are playing the long game, and it's not a movie; it's a part of a bigger thing. So I think everybody, well, nobody cares, but I think viewing them as it's like viewing Empire as that's just the end of it, isn't it? You can't. It's part of a bigger thing.
No.
Which then became part of a bigger, stupider thing, and then a bigger, better thing. But it's episodic.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
I've got an also theory. I think we were discussing this theory when we left, Rob, when we left the cinema with Daryl and Anna. It's to do, like Ian said, the time stone. We've seen, this is theorising, we've seen how the gauntlet could be used with more than one stone at a time, because you see their activation, and he's used two of them at the same time, so we know that they can interact with each other and their powers can interact and overlap with each other. We've also seen that the time stone can revive the gem, because we saw it destroyed.
Yeah.
We saw the Mind Stone destroyed. And we also saw Thanos revive it and rebuild it by undoing time. We also saw Dr. Stephen Strange looking through the multi, was it 14 billion or something? 14 million, 14 billion alternative worlds, and saw one chance in which they win. And then he basically reversed the decision that he swore he would never make. And we talked about this, but I reckon it's something to do. You're right. He's loaded. He's got a load. He must have loaded the dice. He is a surgeon. He is a precision surgeon. He's thinking steps ahead.
Yeah, he was really good in that. I like Doctor Strange. I liked him and Stark. Their banter together was awesome.
He is thinking, because Sue's made a good point. When they were trying to get the gauntlet off him, why didn't Doctor Strange just create multiple versions of himself and then lasso down Thanos, and they just cut his arm off? You know, when he turned at one point he turns into like, I think 20 different ones of himself, and then Thanos basically removes the illusion with one of the gems. Why didn't he do that again? And then basically all of them hold him down, and then they wouldn't have been able to stop. They would have just cut his arm off, removed the gauntlet. Game over, because he probably knew that wouldn't work. So whatever he did after that moment where he's looking, he knows what has to be done. And also, we saw him there for just a minute, and we know that from, he can create an infinite time loop. So he could have been in the place for the equivalent of 50 years studying intricacy of how, and they never bothered to show us, because that's the whole point of it. We're meant to go, what the fuck is going on? Oh dear, how are they going to get out of this?
You have to get people coming out of the cinema talking about it, otherwise what's the point?
Also, but we've seen that as well in the Doctor Strange movie, where he loops the demon Dormammu in an infinite loop until he gets up trying to kill him and then lets him live. So we see how well he can master time and space and how good he is with spells. So I reckon this is my theory, I reckon he's programmed the time stone after a certain amount of time to revert back, and then that will revive the gauntlet, and it will revive the other gems, and then it could have domain overdose.
Can I just chip?
It's like writing a program.
Yeah. Can I?
Because that's what they mention in the film, that they treat magic like a program. you manipulate elements and stuff and you build it. So that's why you see all these patterns and stuff that are used in during the Doctor Strange film.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been building up little bits and hints.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I just chip in something with your thought, Rob, that the contractual obligations of people may have been indicative in endings? Isn't it entirely possible that anybody whose contract isn't going to be renewed may have filmed extra scenes during the shoot that may or may not be used in future things, if you know what I'm saying? If their contract's coming to an end, they've already been contracted for the movies, for all of the Avengers ones, and then they're done. But this is just a way to get, oh no, they're dead, and then they were back at the end and going living in a forest somewhere, becoming a fucking lumberjack or something.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they've killed them off, and they filmed both these Avenger films back to back. So
yeah.
There's they're going to be in the next one, even if it's just for them to meet their miserable ends or whatever. But that's the thing, and there's been like a bit of a double fake out with the whole like name of it and stuff, because they were like, no, it's definitely not part 2, and it's like, well, yeah, it is. Whatever you call it, it's part 2 because this is clearly half a story that we've been shown.
If it's called the Time Stone, then we probably got it. Or
yeah, there's another interesting thing
times,
though.
That would work.
Or Infinity Piece.
There's another thing I was listening to the other earlier today on the Slash Film Daily podcast. Apparently, like they're saying, how are they going to market the new Spider-Man movie that's out sort of next summer?
Before he died, he did other stuff.
Without dropping, apparently, but it's apparently supposed to take place straight after Infinity War 2 or whatever they're going to call it. And they're like, so how are they going to market that without Spider-Man being in it? Or are they just going to have to spoil that? And like, that's
it depends what the second film is. If it's the Madam Web story, he kind of gets thrown into another dimension. And then has to team up with all of the different versions of Spider-Man. Ben Reilly, Miles Morales. Oh God, I can't remember how many. There's loads.
That would be good. I think that would blow most people's minds, but that would be a good one to do.
It would blow people's minds if they seriously did like commit to killing off all those people. But I just don't. But
even in the comics, they kill people off and they come back. I mean, it's not a.
Yeah.
It's a trope.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There were some bits of the film I wasn't sure. I mean, I mentioned that originally I think they were going to introduce another character called Death, who Thanos was infatuated with. And when he went to get the Soul Stone, you saw the cloaked figure, I was like, holy shit, they're going to... Really? That's going to be a bit weird. No, it wasn't. It was hair, skull.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought they were going to weave in Cate Blanchett's character into... as Death, as a bit of a, what they, when they combine roles and stuff. But no, I think that story I think would needed a little more elaboration.
I'm glad they left that out because it would have been a bit too far of a leap. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's why I say
focused on him and Gamora basically instead. Yeah.
And that's why I say that I'm happy that they, even though it's a toned down version of Thanos, it fits perfectly in with the universe because it makes him more rounded. There's a part in which he's fighting all of them and he basically just reaches up at the moon around another moon around Titan and just it not quite explodes, but he just sort of crunches it and huge chunks of it come out and he just rains it down on them. He basically
throws a moon at Iron Man.
He mostly but I was just saying, this is the difference between the way that they've written it, which I think is good, because in the comic, he would have just grabbed the entire thing and hurtled it at the planet, and it would have just annihilated everything, and he would have been floating in space, just laughing.
It's
insane.
Some absolute incredible eye candy in this, though. The effects are amazing.
There were some that I was a little bit... I thought the Hulkbuster looked a bit blurry in places, but then it might have just been the fast-paced way that they were doing it. Some of the shots were a little close, and it was a bit frantic, and I thought that might have been the way that they're doing it, so I think CG kind of suffers a little bit, but some bits were just gobsmacking.
There were quite a few. Well, there's at least one shot in the trailer that's completely staged and not in the movie at all.
Yeah, but the trailers do that, and
It's basically
they
got
had to
Hulk
do a
in it,
lot.
running behind Captain
but they had to
America.
do a lot of false marketing for it, though.
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, it's all part of their game, such as Thor's eye and all that. But I thought that was brilliantly resolved. Apparently, it wasn't the eye from the first Guardians movie, but
Oh wow, okay,
never mind. Yeah, I don't know. I like to think that it was.
yeah.
Anyway, it's getting on a bit, so I think we're going to have to call it for now.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
sure
got other theories,
this
but I'll have to
movie-
save them until the next film comes out.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this movie for a while. So, things are going to come up throughout the year. And, we'll call it there for now.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Not Watching Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Playing Podcast, where we talk about video games, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam and Co. talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, bye!
Before we get into the big one, I just want to mention that Jack Black has announced that Pick of Destiny 2 will be coming soon.
Oh, yeah. I did catch word of that. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Was that ever
The
any
first
good?
film is one of those things where you're not sure if it's a good or bad thing, but I'm kind of glad it existed. The soundtrack to it was better than the movie, and maybe this might be the same thing again.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, well, maybe that'll be decent.
No.
Yeah, so we are definitely going to get into Avengers.